Well, we are here. Wow, that was quick. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, well, in multiple regards, I don't know
Yeah.
what just happened, Lawrence. We are here for an emergency. Let me just do some quick housekeeping before I turn it over to you and just get this thing rolling. This is the 901 Soccer Podcast emergency broadcast. Obviously, so reports are out there that 901 FC will be leaving Memphis and moving to Santa Barbara. We're still trying to, number one, confirm, right? Like we haven't got confirmation from 901 FC that this is happening. Have we seen anything from the USL? Has the USL said anything about this? No.
I haven't seen anything. I've made some phone calls and I've sent some texts, and I'm still every bit as much in the dark as everybody else is. Tom Bogert is a very well respected national soccer writer. I have no reason to doubt his reporting. Nobody has told me anything. That's where I'm at. But I always do like to come back to nobody works hard to keep good news quiet.
That's a good point. That's a good point. This is a live broadcast, so obviously Lawrence and I are live right now. If you want to comment, we'll highlight comments, put them up on the screen. If you have questions for Lawrence, if you're a Memphian and you have questions and just want to freak out a little bit, do it in the comments and we'll bring it up and we'll discuss it and, you know, those kinds of things. But yeah, man, Lawrence is crazy because we have a podcast actually coming out, a 901 Soccer podcast coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. Me and you did together this week. I feel like I've been on a podcast with you more than I have anybody else this entire week, and I'm actually kind of digging it. Not a big fan of this right here, right? Like not of this conversation, but we have a great podcast coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. Talking about it. Can I give it away a little bit?
Yeah, go right ahead. No,
an idea that you brought to the table that I thought was such a cool idea and such a cool conversation that I was like, you got to let me join you so we can have this discussion. Is how to build a fan base, right? Like, what is the proper vehicle to build a soccer fan base in the United States of America? And we have a really cool conversation about that, specifically around collegiate soccer. So that will be a fun conversation coming out tomorrow at 3. Man, Lawrence, just off the rip, man, I know we're all trying to figure out what the hell is going on here, but what are your thoughts? Just off the rip, what are your thoughts?
I'm trying to figure out which one of the stages of grief that I'm at right now. I don't remember the order of them, but whatever the first one is, I guess I'm there right now. What is it? Anger? Is it denial? Just speaking for everybody. This sucks. This just absolutely sucks. And I guess if we're denial, thank you in the comments. Denial is the first one. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Because and part of, yeah. That I don't disagree there. That's I indeed. It's part there's a lot of reasons why this is, because this is out of nowhere. Essentially, this is out of nowhere.
Right.
There's a variety. I don't even know where I really want to start. I don't guess there's really any good or bad place to start. But this was not a team that was acting like 2024 was their last year. The way they went about their business this year, multiple players signed to multiple year deals. Coach Stephen Glass just signed a contract extension to keep him here through 2025. And he had done a very good job in earning that contract extension. Like, this team on the field was really good. Coach Caleb mentioned it. 3 straight years where they have finished in the top 4 of their respective conference, the only team in the league to do that. 4 straight playoff appearances, back-to-back years of advancing in the U.S. Open Cup. They'd played in 4 U.S. Open Cups and advanced in 3 of them. Like, this was, for as new as they were, this was by and large a fairly successful soccer team on the field. But that's probably where you can draw the line of success, was
Yeah,
on the
I
field.
don't think on pitch success has anything to do with the decision that has been made.
I don't
Right?
think so either. It's there was back in 2022. This is an article that I wrote, an article for World Soccer Talk. I had a sit down one-on-one interview with Craig Unger, and there, as part of that was when the big ask for the stadium money, right? Like nominally, the reason that this team is now no longer this team and is about to be Santa Barbara's team is because there's no viable stadium solution, right? And if only 901 FC had been included in the big ask when they went to the state legislature, and the state legislature handed out a fuck ton of cash. And oh wait, they were included in that. Gee,
They were.
they
Yeah.
were, and the Redbirds were, and the University of Memphis was, and the Redbirds just had to go begging hat in hand to the city council for the scraps. And the University of Memphis had to have Fred Smith jump in with $150 million golden parachute to make sure that Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium could get redone. You can guess the entity that I haven't named and draw your own conclusions.
Thank you for being diplomatic. Thank you for being diplomatic here, Lawrence. I appreciate that.
You see, I didn't name any, but draw your own conclusions. Draw your own conclusions. But that's when the one of the questions that I asked Craig Unger in that interview was, hey, there's been some reports out of El Paso and out of Albuquerque, and those are two cities that have a USL championship team playing in a baseball stadium, not unlike Memphis 901 FC.
Right.
And reports from those cities and were like, hey, USL's kind of telling everybody you're in your own stadium by the 2026 World Cup or else. But there wasn't anything like official from the league on that. And, that was one thing I asked Craig Unger, and he kind of was diplomatic in his response, much as I was just a second ago. And he's like, don't worry about what other reports in other cities. And I'm like, okay, cool. He said, we're just focused on what we're trying to do here. But then point blank, the very last question I asked him was, what's plan B? And he said, there is no plan B. And that's direct, verbatim, on the record. It's in the article. And so I guess maybe we all liked to pretend that once, all $350 million and then some was going elsewhere, that there was going to be another way. We were going to be able to find something else somewhere, some financing. Memphis 901 FC's ownership group sold their interest in the team that they owned in England. And you're thinking, well, hey, why would you do that unless you're going to use that money and bring it over here and put it towards building a stadium? But that appears to not be the case. So one of the things that gave me both concern and hope was that in 2000, I guess it was the end of last year, the USL rolled in and told San Diego Loyal, no stadium, you're done. The difference there is that Major League Soccer was being quite predatory, and they're about to do the same thing with Indianapolis, despite Indy 11 drawing 10,000 people a game. So buckle up for that one. Like MLS said, who are the best USL markets? Like, who are good USL markets that we're not already in? And let's go take the fan base and this infrastructure that they've already put in and slap our name on it, and it's ours now. That's what happened in San Diego. I don't think it really was because they didn't have a stadium solution. So that was both concerning and hopeful. That concerning that USL said you're in your own stadium or else, and then they went to San Diego and they're like, you don't have your own stadium. Here's what or else means. But the hope out of there was that that's because MLS is coming. Not the case here. So I don't know, but this team was not acting like an organization that was shutting down at the end of the year. They were not acting like that, not based on conversations I'd had throughout the year, not based on conversations I had the day they got knocked out by Orange County. There were already some interesting plans for stuff that they were looking forward to doing next year. So I understand why everybody wants to be angry at 901 FC. I understand that they have over the last 6 years they've given us all reason to be angry at them for one thing or another. Lord knows I've spent my fair share of podcasts the last couple of years yelling and screaming about stuff that they could and should be doing better. Yeah. I don't know that because I haven't heard anything from the team. I don't know. We're still, I guess, sort of in the speculation stage, and I don't really like to deal in speculation because it's gotten me in trouble before.
It's gotten us all in trouble. That's right.
And what I have been able to glean is it to me sounds like this might not necessarily have been 901 FC's decision at this moment in time. If it was, then I think we all have a lot more right to be even more upset and angry than we are right
now. Yeah.
But
I have seen a bunch of people in the comment section, they're talking about obviously just a lot of frustration and anger about this report that's out there. And it does seem like that pretty much everybody that's in the comment section is talking about the stadium situation is the reason why that the USL or whoever it may be would say 901 FC, you don't have a home in Memphis anymore. Do you think that it's deeper than that, or is it legitimately the fact that there didn't seem to be a viable path forward for Memphis 901 FC to get a stadium here in Memphis?
I think if they were drawing 7,000 people a game in a baseball stadium, the USL would be just fine with them playing in a baseball stadium until they found another option to build a stadium. Because 901 FC's attendance, there's no sugarcoating. It has gone. Last year was the worst ever. The year before was the worst ever, and this year was the worst ever. Right? Like I was going to wait till the end of the entire USL season because I was going to put together an article with 901 FC's attendance plus the average attendance for every other team in the USL Championship to show how 901 FC stacked up, and I might still do that. But it was bad. Like I'll tell you what it was. They were averaging 2,800 people a game this year, and that's down from 3,400 a game last year, which was down from 3,800 a game the year before, which was down from 4,000 and change the year before. Like it was. There were no peaks, there were no valleys. There was a peak and just a very nice. It's like the game on The Price is Right, the Yodeler game where he's going up, except he's going down. That's what was going on, and it's really disappointing and really frustrating because towards the end of this season, I thought there were some hopeful signs. I thought the final final regular season home game of the year was against Sacramento, and that drew like 4,600 people. That was the largest crowd in 2 years. And the 901 FC had busted their ass promoting that game and trying to get people into that game. And, then obviously you had 6 days to sell tickets for a home playoff game, and the crowd wasn't great, but it was still bigger than I think maybe there was a stretch in like late July and early August where the crowd's like stunk. And this one was better than those. I was hopeful that, there was finally going to be a whole soccer side of operations, and you weren't having people do everything for the Redbirds and everything for them. You were having, half the number of people that you needed to run one organization were running 2 organizations. That's not a recipe for success for anybody.
So let me ask you this, and I have a special guest I want to bring on in a second to talk with us.
Okay.
That I want to bring on that I think will add some interesting dynamic to the conversation that we're having here. But I have 2 things that I see in the comment section that I've heard in our Discord, the Bluff City Media Discord. When this announcement was made, there were some conversations that were happening about this. I had some text threads going where this was the same kind of conversation, and it falls to 2 different questions, and I want to. One of the questions was, why not use the Liberty Bowl as a soccer stadium when they're done renovating? Is that even for Memphis 901 FC? Was that ever? Could you have imagined that being a viable option for 901 FC?
I guess it would depend on what it looks like when the renovations were done. Is there, because the line that I've always heard I don't know how it's presently constructed, what with all the demolition going on, but for the way that it had been constructed for a number of years was, if you get into the corners, there's not enough space. It's too tight, just right there in the corners. And so I guess the answer to that question would have been, we would just have to wait and see if once the renovations to the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium are done, if those where it curves in, if there's more space there to go out. But at this point, it's moot.
Yeah.
But, that was something, just a little bit of a teaser. This is somewhat, there was a little bit of this discussion in the podcast that Kenny
we had
and I
this talk
a couple of days ago. Yes.
Yeah. That will be coming out tomorrow at 3.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the conversation around the target audience for Memphis 901 FC and the location of the stadium that they were at. Specifically the fact that it's in downtown, right? Downtown Memphis. Not a lot of people wanted to go to downtown Memphis to watch games. Andrew Ford said should have made a push years ago to engage more deeply in the suburbs and leverage Mike Rose for some games. Families don't want to go to downtown Memphis. If you had to put that on a scale of like 1 to 10 in terms of importance, is that an important factor in this? Should 901 FC and its ownership gone after more of a push into the suburbs and utilizing the micro soccer complex?
So there's a lot to unpack there, and I think there's several things in there that need to be addressed separately.
Okay.
First point, should have made push years ago to engage more deeply in the suburbs. I could not agree more. As far as like community events, accessibility, as far as marketing, it kind of sold itself in 2019, and then they made a big push early on in 2020 when they said, hey, by the way, Tim Howard's going to play for us. And then COVID happened. And it's like until this year, they completely forgot that marketing is something that existed. And Lord knows I rake them over the coals for that.
So
regularly.
I want to ask, you are being extremely, I think, careful and considerate in the words that you're using today and tonight.
It's early. It is
early. I think we need to, we're all kind of taking our kind of figuring out, where we want to go with this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have been on record numerous times over the last couple of years saying, listen, it is crazy that we have a Memphis Showboats banner and I guess an existence in all of these other other places in Memphis sports, and yet nothing from 901 FC.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they've done a much better job this year, but do you think that it was almost too much or too little, far too late? Kind of
too little, to a day late and a dollar short. And because so much of the stuff that I'd been asking for 5 years, they finally started showing up at tournaments at Mike Rose. They finally started going to like youth complexes, and they started going to city schools, and they started doing this and they started doing that, like finally. And there was still plenty more that they could do, as evidenced by the fact that the attendance was 2,800 people a game. So in that aspect, yes, should have made a push years ago to engage more deeply in suburb. Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree with that more. As far as Mike Rose, leveraging Mike Rose for some games, Mike Rose is a good backup option for U.S. Open Cup games. I've been a referee for 18 years. I refereed at President's Cup Nationals in Wichita, Kansas this summer. So I've spent a lot of my life out at Mike Rose Soccer Complex. The stadium holds 2,500 people. What was Memphis 901 FC's worst ever average attendance? 2,800 people. So you're already chopping it down there. And it's not just as simple as, oh, you throw up some seats here, you throw up some seats there. No, not that simple. I don't know how many people, I mean, y'all might be aware of the existence of said stadium, but I've refereed many, 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 many games in that stadium. It's not just, it's like there's no place to put anything. You also run into the factor of parking out there just for the youth tournaments, just for tournaments, is a nightmare. Can you imagine a tournament going on? I mean, even on days where my first game isn't until 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, which believe me, those are few and far between, but every once in a while my assigners will throw a bone my way. I still get there at 7:00 in the morning to make sure that I have a place to park.
Yes, it is hellacious in that parking lot.
It is a nightmare parking wise. So it's not just, hey, throw up 700 seats over here and 1,000 over here, and you've got yourself a 4,500 seat stadium. Bing and bang boom. We're rolling. No.
We're golden. Yep.
Micros is good for them as a training, or was good for them as a training facility where they practiced every day. And it was good in 2019 for overflow for your 2 U.S. Open Cup games that you couldn't play at AutoZone Park. That's what 901 Micros was good for. And to the last point, families don't want to go downtown. Let's see, how shall I put this? I feel like the folks using the feel unsafe, don't want to go downtown are people that already don't care or wouldn't go see 901 FC anyway.
1,000%.
And I also like yes, to say that there are not issues that are crime related in downtown Memphis would be asinine, but these are not new. Like, this has been a thing for quite some time, right? It hasn't prevented people. It never prevented people from going to like music fest. It hasn't prevented people from going to events at concerts at FedEx Forum. It hasn't prevented them from going to Grizzlies games. For the longest time, it didn't prevent them from going to Tigers basketball games. For the longest time, it didn't prevent them from going to Redbirds games. Until COVID, the Redbirds were frequently packing out AutoZone Park. So the families don't want to go to downtown Memphis. Well, I understand the reasoning behind that. I feel that particular bullet point is not as based in reality as people would like to think that it is.
I agree. You weren't going to go anyway, right? Yes. Like you weren't going to go anyway. And number two,
you're going to find a reason why you couldn't go.
You're finding reasons and excuses, and I think it's absurd to paint Memphis in the light that it is this extremely, like, downtown Memphis is this extremely dangerous place to go. Yes, there is crime everywhere, right? Like, there's crime everywhere. Memphis is not abnormal in that regard. I think once again, it is an excuse to not go for people who were just never going to go anyway. Right.
That's yes. But sure. There are plenty of incidents in downtown Memphis that I would not want to be caught up in. But I'll have to find my spreadsheet tomorrow morning when I go into the office. But I've been to, I don't know how many Memphis 901 FC games at AutoZone Park over 6 years. And I have never personally seen or had anything bad happen to me. I was told that something bad happened across the street at the Doubletree, but I did not witness it, so I can't speak to. There were some police cars there, but I don't know what the deal was. That was in 2021.
Well, I want to do something a little bit interesting. I want to kind of throw you a curveball. Okay. I have been able to attend quite a few 901 FC games this year, and I'll tell you this, man. Like, for myself, it is. And I've talked to you about it. I've talked to Anthony Saint about it. I've talked to a bunch of different people at BCM about it. Talked about what the atmosphere, right? Like the environment, the relationship between the fan base that loves, that are diehard 901 FC fans, and the players and the coaching staff and those, and none of it is better exemplified than in the Bluff City Mafia. And if you haven't been to a game and witnessed the Bluff City Mafia, it is an incredible group of diehard 901 FC soccer fans that are just, they go nuts, and they are awesome. And when we announced that we were going to do this emergency broadcast, someone from Bluff City Mafia reached out and said, please let me come on and just talk. And so I'm going to bring Ian Johnson on. Ian Johnson is from Bluff City Mafia, and I want him to kind of share his thoughts. Ian, you're muted, brother, but try to unmute your mic, and man, just talk to us, man. How are you feeling, brother?
First off, thanks for having me on. I was just messing around when I said let me call in, but
come on. I said come on, let's go.
The more the merrier, and we need all the merry we can get.
Well, as your downtown Memphis reporter live from Front Street, it's not the crime that was the attendance issue. My barber drove out from Arlington for half the games this season. If people wanted to come, they would come. Mike Rose doesn't have the egress. We can go on and on about that, but I guess the general reaction most of us have is just shock. Like Lauren said, no one was expecting this except for maybe, the ownership. Talking to members of the media last Saturday who said, half the team had either re-signed or were about to re-sign and they were excited. Talking to Coach and his wife, they had just signed their extension and they, love being here. Mm-hmm. The front office staff has been working their tails off to try to improve everything that you guys have been talking about. They know that there were issues with how the club had been run, and they were working their tails off to make it better. We met with the club on a Friday night just a few weeks ago, trying to figure out what to do for next season. So even the front office was getting ready to go for 2025, and they're ready to go hard. So like I said, we're shocked, we're sad. But at the end of the day, this club, these games have brought us a lot of happiness. I met the love of my life there. I know a lot of people who've met their significant others at 901.
We had somebody get engaged at one of the games this year.
Yes, Damon and Callie. Yes, they got engaged.
Kenny, you're muted.
Yeah, my bad. I filmed the engagement. It was my first game that I was able to go to all year, and I was able to film their engagement. It was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, but like I said,
to somebody 901 Soccer here in the chat, which I find is interesting because that's the 90. I run the 901 Soccer podcast Twitter account, and that's 901 Soccer is also me on Reddit. You guys disregard the fact that this organization has less than a dozen people on staff. The issue is not marketing tickets. Okay, we did address Mr. or Mrs. 901 Soccer. We did address that earlier. I made the point that there was a moment or several moments in time where they were having half the people that you needed to run one organization were running two organizations. That point was addressed. But when they hired Jay Mims in December of last year, he was able to finally get some soccer people in there so that they could have a soccer specific side of that. But saying that, as Kenny and I said a moment ago, probably at this point, too little, too late, a day late, and a dollar short.
Yeah,
so
I want to reiterate, I am not blaming the people who work for 901 FC for any of this, right? I know those people. Those people are amazing. They work so hard to put on the experiences every single game and getting out into the community. The people that are there work so hard, and they're very good people. And I will say they are as stunned by this as we are, right? So I don't think that this is don't think that this is a coming down on the people that are on the front lines working, every single day. I want to reiterate, those people are awesome. This is years in the making, right? Like years in the making of
this. Yeah. This is when stuff like this happens. Everybody wants who's to blame, whose house do we need to go burn down, that sort of thing. Let's not burn anybody's house down.
Yeah, let's not burn any houses.
Also, Travis in the comments, yes, I'm aware Jay left 2 months ago. I'm the one that broke that story. Do we want to be mad at Memphis 901 FC? Sure. What could and should they have done a lot more for a lot longer? Absolutely. Do we want to be mad at the state of Tennessee for only cutting a $300 million check instead of a $600 million check like they were originally? Sure. Do we want to be mad at an organization whose name I declined to use earlier, where all of that state money may or may not end up? Sure. Do we want to be mad at the general populace for not going to these games? Sure. Do we want to be mad at other local media outlets in town who treated 901 FC as a novelty and just this cute little toy that, oh, isn't that great? They've got a soccer team over there. And now that they're leaving, oh, well, they're gone. Oh, well, ha, ha, ha. Sure.
Yeah.
We can be mad at all of those things. I am, believe it or not, a little bit mad at myself because there was a stretch in 2021 and 2022 where I only made about half the games. And it does cause me to wonder, had I been able to attend more of those games in that time, especially because those were the 2 seasons where the team finally turned around and started performing on the field. 2022, they won their only playoff game. Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. We all have to get some. I think you can. I think it really depends on who do you want to be mad at the most, and what what. What do I want to say this? It's like, what did you already think coming into tonight, and then tonight just probably is what says, yep, if X, Y, or Z had or had not happened, 901FC would still be here.
It's all the confirmation bias you need. It's
yeah. I don't, and I've made my positions very well known. There's no sense in beating that horse to death.
But as you said, at the end of the day, we can't blame the product on the pitch for this.
Oh man,
4 straight years of playoffs, 3 straight years of home playoff games, a home playoff win. The boys showed up. Glass and his crew came in and, fixed the culture of this team and created a core group of players who loved being here and loved playing for this team. And it showed. You saw those guys were devastated anytime they didn't walk off the pitch with 2 points. And it's different than, a regular loss. They really, were a team, which you don't always see.
And I made this point the last Monday, the Monday after they were eliminated from the playoffs. I was on the Gabe Kuhn show, and I made the point that this 901FC team probably embodied Memphis more than any other team, probably since the heyday of the Grit Grind Grizzlies, when they beat Portland and then took Golden State to 6 games in the second round of the playoffs, and I think that was 2015. You had players on this team that wanted to be here. You had coaches that wanted to be here, and the players and the coaches made a point to let you know that they wanted to be here, and that was not always the case in years prior leading up to this year. And there were a lot of times this year where they could have very easily just said, fuck it, we're done. They started off 1-5. They lost 5 straight games. I think you probably have to go back to the COVID season or maybe even to 2019 to find such a wretched streak of soccer. And at no point did they throw in the towel. At no point did they put their heads down. They stuck with it, and they went from not quite worst to not quite first, but they went from one of the worst teams in the league early on to the number 3 team in the Western Conference, with the additional caveat of having traveled more miles than any other team in the league, courtesy of the move from the East to the West. It's frustrating because these guys battled their asses off week in and week out and did, I think, an amazing job of representing the city of Memphis. Absolutely. And it is incredibly disappointing that the city either could not or would not get behind them.
Ian, before we let you go, man, tell me just your final thoughts as the rep. I mean, you came on, we announced that you were coming on, and people just freaked out in the comments. They love you. They love Bluff City Mafia. Just tell me, kind of give your final thoughts as a rep from the Bluff City Mafia, man. What are you feeling right now? And just what's your message to the 901FC fans that are just going, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, like I said, initial reaction, shock, hurt, all the stages of grief. But at the end of the day, we had 6 great years of this club that really, we sing the song, we are a family, and it's true. There, even though it's not directly in the Bluff City Mafia, you come to that stadium and you feel a family atmosphere. I'll share this without sharing too many personal details, but we've had cancer affect our group a lot this year, both in the Mafia as well as just our community in general. And I don't know many coaches or team captains that would come to the funeral of a supporter, and really have personal, heartfelt stories. And we've had something special here. So at the end of the day, we'll raise our glass, we'll remember what's going on, and we'll continue to support soccer in this town. We've got U of M playing. Our women got shunted by the NCAA, but our boys are playing tomorrow night. I'll be out there. So come out and get rowdy. We'll find ways to support soccer in this town. We've got American Outlaws. We've got U of M. We've got CBU. We got Rhodes. And hopefully, if we can get another pro team in this town, you'll see us back out there acting stupid as always.
Well, Travis says this. He's been in the comments the entire time, and he said, I love this. For those who come to love soccer through 901 FC, take your love of the game and find a team, just not Nashville. Spread grassroots soccer, expose people to the sport. And I can guarantee you that
this Travis, you will be very interested to tune into the podcast that we have dropping tomorrow. Just because Ian mentioned it earlier, all we've got left is the University of Memphis. So you'll definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, thank you, man. I appreciate you coming in, and I'm sorry if I took you on your word of, hey, I want to come in and talk. I hope I didn't surprise you too much with it, but man, glad to have you in here.
No, it's all good. I appreciate y'all having me on, and I appreciate all y'all do to support soccer in this town, Lawrence. I know I can't sing your praises enough. You work so hard to share the love of this sport in our town, and we'll keep it going. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you guys.
Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. I wanted to do something else before let me figure this out. Man, we got somebody else that wants to come in and talk to you. Anthony Sane.
The more the merrier, and we need all the merry we can get.
Anthony Sane for the Anthony Sane Show, tribal chief of Grizzlies Twitter.
Yes, sir.
The never invited to the Bluff City Mafia, even though Ian just left. Now, hey, by the way, Ian in text told me you're invited to the Bluff City Mafia.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man. No, but shout out to
a day late and a dollar short.
Shout out to the Bluff City Mafia, man, for showing me love the entire time. It's funny because me and Gabe, we were at the last game. He said, "Dad, when are you gonna break the guitar?" Right? I said, Gabe, they kept pushing it off a couple of years ago. I said, I'll get with them early next year. I'll make it happen. But yeah, it never will happen, bro. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Anthony, you texted
it's
me.
Sad, man. It really sucks. 901 FC games kind of became a part of what I do. You know, I never grew up as a soccer fan or anything like that. And I remember when it came, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'll never go, but that's cool. I started going to games, started covering the games as media. They started taking care of me, me and my son, jerseys, giveaways, tickets. I never paid for tickets. But I think the city's going to miss it, man, because it was an extremely affordable ticket. Mm-hmm. I paid whatever the lowest amount was and sit where I want to sit, which is maybe why we're not here anymore.
You can get a ticket for $11. What can you do anywhere in the world for $11?
Yeah, it may be a reason why they're not here anymore. But but it was great, man. I'm gonna miss it for sure. I'm not really in the finger pointing mode. The stuff about people not going downtown. Come on, man. People go downtown for everything else they want to do. If that's the mentality that we have, just go ahead and move the Grizzlies now, because we're a major pro sports city. And they're going to have to support pro teams. I think that's a small town mentality. People get mad when I call us, let's say Memphis is Mayberry, with the way we think sometimes, but that kind of thinking about people that want to go downtown, will just stop calling yourself a pro town then, because pro towns, they have their stuff downtown. It's not in the suburbs. It's not in Collierville. So that's not an excuse. I mean, people just do what they want to do. I'm an inner city dude, and I still wasn't going until a few years ago. So they don't have anything to do with it. It was when I experienced it, when I saw it was like I was sold, and that's all it took. And it was something that I enjoyed doing with my family, with my kid. So it's not anything about where it was. Like I said, I enjoyed doing it, man. I enjoyed the sightlines. I enjoyed everything about going to it. It really sucks, but it's really unfortunate that the city didn't get behind it in the time that we had. We also have to keep in mind, man, the pandemic did not help that situation at all. I remember the first year there was a lot of buzz about it. People were talking about it everywhere. I remember driving downtown Memphis and seeing a horde of white people coming my way, and they call themselves the Bluff City Mafia. It scared the shit out of me. I'm sorry. I don't know if you heard it.
Oh yeah, we're cussing in here. It's all good.
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me to see this horde of white people coming my way with these blue signs, and I found out that's what you call the Bluff City Mafia. And I was like, all right, cool. This thing is a vibe. It was hundreds of people seemed like coming at me at the time. But what was I about to say? But yeah, once I actually went to it, man, it was super fun. And I hate that city's not, like I said, the pandemic hurt this whole thing, man. Because
it did.
Becomes and now they're scrambling trying to get this thing back,
Mhm.
and they didn't have the resources or the bandwidth to really do the things they probably wanted to do. But shout out to the people this year. A lot of things that they did, man, were incredible. I like
Incredible.
the outreach they were doing, the fingerprint they were leaving in the inner city. A lot of the inner city schools, black and brown kids, they were trying to leave an imprint with, and I think it was genuine, man. I like a lot of efforts that they were doing this season. It sucks though, man. Like I said, because I know Gabe like going. It's affordable, super affordable. Their concessions are better than FedEx Forum, probably, if I'm not mistaken. Because I mean, this year FedEx Forum's kind of stepped it up, but yeah, their food was pretty cool. It just sucks, man. It just really sucks for sure.
Mhm.
And I'm downtown now. I feel pretty safe, man. I don't really think nothing. I'm in Huey's downtown. I'm not worried about.
You right across the, you right down the street from the
you're right there.
AutoZone. You're
down there and
AZP.
pour out some liquor for 901 FC. It sucks,
Pour
man.
one
Like,
out
it sucks
for
for
'em.
real.
Pour one out, man.
It sucks for real, man. But for everybody who showed love to me, my kid, Love City Mafia, my guy Josh Clayton over there in PR, everybody that took care of us, man, appreciate y'all. Yeah, it sucks though. But
I love Josh, man. We butted heads once or twice. It happens. I butted
Josh
heads with a lot of people over there once or twice, but
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, no. I'm shocked to hear that, Lawrence. Doctor, that you actually Lawrence crazy as hell.
no, but we were. I don't remember if it was the Orange County playoff game or if it was the Sacramento game, the last one of the regular season. But we were all kind of sitting up there in the press box talking, and it dawned on us that Josh has the longest tenured PR person for 901 FC since. I mean, there was a minute where they were running through a new one every 3 weeks, and he'd been there for a little over two and a half years now. I think it was.
Good to see a brother stay employed.
22 is when Josh got there.
Yeah,
Man.
but man, I appreciate y'all, everybody who's showed me and my kid love when we came to the games. Unfortunately, I never got to break that guitar, man. They kept prolonging and switching it up and postponing it and do this date, and I couldn't do that date, and I never got to do it. But yeah, it's all good, man. I might just go break a guitar in front of my house for no reason.
Could do it.
But yeah, man, it's all
thanks
good.
Hey, man.
What you say, bro? What'd you say,
Lawrence? It was
just roll up to the plaza out there at AutoZone Park, and
you said roll up
while you're pouring one out. You can finish pouring it out and
then
grab the guitar and go right out there in the plaza.
Yeah, I'm still out in this Huey's, man. The music got loud. I can't hear what y'all saying, but I'm gonna log off, man. I just want to get that off. I appreciate y'all, man, for sure, man. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you, man.
FC, we ain't gonna never forget you, man. It's all good.
RIP's 901 FC, baby.
Yes,
all right, and we'll see you, man. Oh man, dude, one of the funniest stories when we first started doing the Anthony Sane show, we had our studio, and he had Night Pickering on, and Anthony is the king of. He said in there, he said earlier, he just said, "I don't pay for things," and it's true. Like he gets a lot of stuff for free, and Knight came in with a new kit on, and Anthony took the kit off of him and gave him some random shirt we had up there at the studio, took the kit off of him and said, "That's mine now, bro." It was the funniest.
Oh, man.
This is when Knight was like 18 years old, 17 years old. It was the funniest.
He had to drop it off, man.
Hold on, here you are. Where are you at? And come on.
He had to drop it off, man.
That was one of the funniest. I've never laughed so hard because Knight was just looking like, what the hell?
The South Memphis and me say, man, I need you to drop that jersey out, bro. Hey, unfortunately, you were the same size as my kids, so drop it out.
my favorite Sane 901 FC me moment was, I always like to at halftime of every game go walk around downstairs. I like to make the joke that I descend from my ivory tower press box and mingle with the pores is the joke that I like to make. But I always just like to go down and shake hands and kiss babies and say hi to everybody. So went down to say hey to some of the Mafia people, and Sane was down there, and I said, say hey to Sane. He's like, "Hey, did you see the show that I did the other day?" And I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "Check out that last 10, 15 minutes. We were talking about you." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I get home and I throw it on, and it gets to the end. I think Pete Edmonston was the guy that y'all had on, and I don't remember exactly how it came up, but all of a sudden, saying goes, "Man, Lawrence Dockery's hard as hell on them folks at 901." and Kenny jumps in and Kenny jumps in and goes, "Let me tell you what. I have gotten more phone calls from that organization about that guy than everybody else at this company put together."
It's sad, Kenny, that you get more calls about Lawrence Dockery than me.
Dude, this year you might have changed. You might have flipped the calculus on this year for the Grizzlies, man. I might be getting some more.
Oh man,
that shit's changed.
Yeah, man.
Well, the reason I was mad is they weren't doing anything, and then they started doing stuff. So I said nice things. It's not a complicated concept.
Nah, y'all got it though, man. I'm out, bro.
All right, bro.
All right, see you.
Oh man, that's funny, man. No, it's hilarious. Listen, man, did you ever think that we would have 560 people tuning in to a 901 Soccer podcast episode? Because that's what's happening right now.
Maybe in my wildest, grandest delusions, maybe if there, I had always held out hope that somehow, some way, Memphis 901 FC was going to sign Memphis Depay purely for the name. That was always my hope, and that was the one that I was like, this one's going to do numbers because we're going to have people in Amsterdam watching. We're going to have people at whatever. I think he's in Saudi Arabia now, but whatever club that he's at now, all those people are going to be tuning in to hear me gloat. That was always my dream, was that 901 FC was going to sign Memphis Depay, but that dream, like so many others that came before it, is now dead.
It is now dead. Well, listen, Lawrence, man, any final words you want to share? Just to kind of. There's a lot of people, man, who are just kind of shocked and depressed by this. So, man, just give some final words, man, and maybe some hope. Because listen, I'll just say this to you. Yeah, I don't know how you feel. You said before we got on, you were like, "This has been a rough week for me," right? Like,
yeah. So for those of you that don't know, well, I mean, if you know me, you know that I have for 10 years now written for World Soccer Talk. That's where all of my U.S. national team content goes. Game previews, attendance, TV ratings, the occasional Greg Berhalter hit piece, stuff about the nations or the stuff about the Leagues Cup being stupid, and was told while I was in Louisville covering the USA women's game was informed that there had been a number of layoffs at the company and that freelance writers such as myself would no longer be submitting content to them. So you lose that. And then, because one of my big things is, we've got the World Cup coming to the U.S. in 2026. Yes, I did, Travis. You are goddamn right that I did. To hell with that guy. I hope his professional career dies a slow, agonizing death. That man put me through 8 years of misery. And I finally got to ask that scumbag a question in a post game, and it went viral, which was fun for about a day and then exhausting for the next 3 days. Yep. But so no longer am I writing for World Soccer Talk, and then obviously you have the 901 FC eliminated from the playoffs, so that sucks. Then you have the Memphis women yesterday snubbed from the NCAA tournament despite being 13-2. That sucked, and now this is the worst part of all. And because I've been. One of my big hopes and big goals was that professionally I was going to be able to get a press pass for the World Cup in 2026. And now, I mean, I guess that possible. I still have contacts and whatnot, and I can ask, hey, how do I do this? But now it's, if I don't have a team to cover, and I'll still hopefully be out there next year covering the men's and women's teams for the University of Memphis. But that the content is going to be far less frequent and now that there's no team to cover, which is a major bummer. So I'm going to miss this team. I really enjoyed. There was only 1 year, and it was the COVID year in 2020. I hated going down and covering that team in 2020. A, I had to wear a stupid mask. B, there was no food. C, the team sucked. God, they were awful in 2020. I also do wonder if the team being as bad as they were in 19 and 20, maybe we talked about COVID. I do wonder if the team had been good right from the jump, like, say, Louisville City. Until this year, Louisville City had gone to the Eastern Conference Finals every single year of their existence. not so coincidentally, they have always had one of the highest attendances in the league and have their own stadium. I do wonder if the team had been good right from the jump, if that may have encouraged or that may have helped fan retention, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I'm gonna I loved going in 2019. I loved going in 21, 22. Like I've told some of you before, I had a lot going on in 21 and 22, and I was in a very miserable place in my life at that time. Doing much better now, obviously. So that's why I didn't get to as many games in 21 and 22. But I really enjoyed it. I've been to, I don't know how many games over 6 years. I've been to I'd say probably 85-90% of Memphis 901 FC home games. I've covered 3 of their games on the road. I've gone to Louisville twice. I went to Birmingham this year, which, by the way, was a horrific experience. But I'm glad that I went because now I can tell that story. Getting to meet all sorts of cool and different and interesting people, being able to, even in the local media scene, there's people that I would have just seen them on TV or seen them on Twitter. Now I've gotten to interact with them at games and at press conferences and at practices and that sort of thing. I've been fortunate enough. I've been a radio guest on Sports 56 in the mornings with Greg and Eli every month for the last year and a half. Been on the Gabe Kuhn show several times, was on U of M Campus Radio Today, have been a guest on a number of USL podcasts, have, met all the networking and the connections and the people that you meet and the stories that you get to tell. And, real good friends with John Varlas. I like to think that I'm real good friends with John Varlas now after, it was for years, it was me and him. And really to this day, it was me and him covering 901 FC. So it's like, I'm going to miss all of that, man. I miss going into the press box and talking with people. And I miss seeing, soccer people, people that I normally just see at Mike Rose because I'm refereeing their game. I'm going to miss seeing them downtown in a non-referee setting when they're not mad at me because, I gave a card or something. I'm going to miss, I think despite the fact that I didn't get to too terribly many of the games in 21 and 22, I think I had a very good professional relationship with Ben Pierman. And then when Stephen Glass came, it was a little bit rocky initially because I was on the, this team, this organization is terrible. They let Ben walk. Why is anybody else coming in? And, I just did a quick Wikipedia search of Coach Glass's record, and I was like, well, this is no good. And then they started off terrible in 23. And I just, but I think over time, I like to think that we developed a very good relationship, I didn't have too much of a relationship with many of the players other than, here's one funny story about my, I guess you could say, lack of relationship with the players. I'm in Louisville last year in June of 23 for 901 FC's game at Louisville City. And for some reason finding the opposing team locker room is like the bane of my existence in covering 901 FC on the road. Nobody can tell me where it is. It's Louisville couldn't do it. Birmingham couldn't do it. It was wild. So finally somebody is able to direct me to the visitors locker room at Lynn Family Stadium in Louisville. And I go, it's weird because you actually walk out of the stadium and it's down the backside of the stadium, and the door, it's just like a door that you would think would go into like a hallway or something. And that's like the door to the locker room is from the back, like from outside. Very strange, but still cool. And I get in there and I'm waiting, and some of the players are starting to filter in, and Aaron Malloy sticks his head out and he says, "Hey, can you get somebody in here to fill the ice baths up? Some of the boys want to hop in the ice bath." And I'm like, "Aaron." He said, "Yeah, I don't work here." He said, "You don't?" I said, "No, I'm media from Memphis. I'm at all of the games in Memphis." And he said, he looked at me, "Oh yeah, you are." And he just turned around and walked off. I was like, "Come on, man. like I'm outside of your locker room after every game for 2 years and you didn't recognize me."
So that's funny.
That was kind of funny, but I don't know. Everyone's doing their favorite 901 FC memory in there. Somebody mentioned the Raul Gonzalez bike to beat Birmingham. That was one of the games in 21 that I missed, and I'm till to this day, and for many years after, I'm sure will be very upset that I missed that game. My all-time favorite 901 FC moment that I was there in person is now and will forever be the playoff win against Detroit in 2022. There's a variety of reasons for that. A, huge crowd, 6,000 people. You had the stadium. We had the brief dream that was the stadium announced that week. And that week, for whatever reason, the people in Detroit all of a sudden decided that they hated everything about us. Obviously, there was the connection with Ben Pierman. He'd been the manager for Detroit City back when they were in the NPSL before he took the assistant spot with 901 FC in 2019. And their supporters group is like we talk about the Bluff City Mafia. Everybody loves the Bluff City Mafia. They're nice. They're welcoming. Everything about Detroit's supporters group, the Northern Guard supporters, they're terrible people. And I any ounce of misery that they go through as a team, I relish. The venom and the vitriol that they sent to me personally, to the city, to the team, to Ben Pierman was astounding. That was something I talked to Josh about. He's like, our mentions have been going crazy with these people. And I'm like, there was even a Detroit fan, thanks to Travis in the comments, I had forgotten this. There was like a Detroit fan walking around in a kilt, and we weren't sure his hygiene was being called into question. And there was nothing questionable about it. It was just bad. So that was a very tense, very emotional back and forth game, and it's 0-0 in the second half, and 901 FC finally takes the lead, and then Detroit equalizes like 3 or 4 minutes later, and it's just, and there's like 10 minutes left in the game, and you're like, oh God, we can't. Not that you ever want to lose a playoff game, but that was one that I specifically, I was like, we cannot lose to these people. Cannot lose to Detroit. Cannot, I'm gonna have to just be gone from social media for like a month. And I am an online person. And then when we scored 2 in stoppage time and won that game 3-1, and that was cathartic. That was euphoric. It was joyous. It was because it also meant that we got another home playoff game. That was incredible. Somebody in the comments, the midnight game against Vegas. Oh my God, this was one where I might have gotten in a little bit of trouble. That midnight game against Vegas. So early on last year, it's like April of 23. The Las Vegas Lights are in town, and I think it's 1-1 or nothing. It was tied, and we get to like the 81st minute in the game, and like the heavens opened up. It was like Noah's Ark out there. I mean, it was like Forrest Gump talking about all the different kinds of rain in Vietnam. Like we had all of those kinds of rain out there. And so they brought the tarp out. I mean, it was raining sideways, sheets. I couldn't hardly see out the press box window. So I know some people, and we'll leave it at that. And I was like, okay, I'm really tired, and I kind of want to go home and go to bed, but there's only 8 minutes left in this game. Once the storm blows through, we'll finish the last 8 minutes, and that'll be that. But just the individual that was messaging was like, I was texting, I was like, when do we think the game's going to restart? Estimated time 10:15. So I'd be like, bloop, bloop, estimated time 10:15. Oh, now it's 10:30. Oh, now it's 10:45. Oh, now it's 11. And then somebody comes in. It's like, hey, are you the one putting out the restart times? I was like, yeah. He's like, you need to stop that right now, and you need to delete all of those. What? Why? You just need to. I don't feel like arguing. And then it got to be, I think probably 11:30 and 11:45, and I said, I was the only one left in there. I said, to hell with this. I'm going home. And they did not end up resuming that game until like 1 o'clock. Like I was in bed asleep before, and I live in South Haven, so it takes a minute for me to get from downtown to my house, and they did not resume that game until like 1 o'clock in the morning. My understanding is that Vegas had already like showered and changed, and they were under the impression that the game was just going to be a draw. And they were going to be going like they were showered, they were changed, they were in street clothes, they had eaten, they were just ready to wait to see when they could get on the bus and get to the airport. And I don't know whose decision it ultimately was, but they played the last 9 minutes of that game and nobody scored. And I would have been so pissed if whoever I was to have sat in the locker room for like 4 hours to go play 8 minutes. And if I had conceded a goal, I would be pissed having to go back out there in the first place. But then if I had gone out there and conceded a goal, I would have been through the roof. And I'm just so very glad that I didn't have to stay at the press box until 1 o'clock in the morning because everybody was gone. It would have been like one of the COVID games from Europe where it was like doors are locked, nobody allowed in kind of game. That was that's a fun one. But the rest of these I'm gonna save. I was messaging with John Barlas, and he's kicking around the idea we might do Tales from the Tunnel and share our favorite 901 FC.
Hey, let's host it on Bluff City Media, man. Bring John Barlas on. I want a soccer podcast. We'll do that. That sounds great.
I'm game to do it. We'll might wait a week or two for all the dust to officially settle.
Right.
But that is something that I think would be. I think I would enjoy that. I think he would enjoy that. I think the listeners would enjoy that. I think
absolutely,
much like we have going on in the comments right now, I think the people would enjoy that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I know you got a lot of joy when somebody said you're the reason why Greg Berhalter was fired.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a career, that is a feather in your cap, right? Well, I'm telling you this. I want to give my my final words to soccer fans in the city of Memphis. And we talk about this a little bit in tomorrow's podcast. It's dropping at 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. But when myself and my partners with Bluff City Media started 2 years ago, our goal was to try to cover and provide coverage for all the sports in the city of Memphis. And I remember one of my partners reaching out to me and said, we need to talk to Lawrence Dockery. And I said, awesome. Who's Lawrence Dockery? He said he is the host of the 901 Soccer Podcast, and he's the best in the city at what he does. And I said, cool, let's have that conversation. I want you to know, and to all the soccer fans that are in here, even though today is I think a devastating day for the community, right? It's a tough day to know that, man, a professional team that we've grown to know and love is no longer in the city. That's a sad day. But the 901 Soccer Podcast, Bluff City Media, Lawrence Dockery, Kenny Stubblefield as a representation of Bluff City Media's ownership, we are committed as ever to continue to grow the sport of soccer in the city of Memphis. And my goal, and I don't want to put any kind of absurd, ideas of what that might look like. But I want everybody to know that's in this, that we are as committed to support you, Lawrence, as you continue to build this community of soccer fans in the city. And I hope that one day we'll be able to take a step back and go, hey, here's the feather in your cap of getting Greg Berhalter fired. The other feather is 901 Soccer Podcast and Lawrence Dockery were responsible for bringing back a professional team in the city of Memphis. And so that's our goal. That's what we want to do. And we're not going to stop. Like, we're going to continue to do this. Just because Memphis 901 FC is leaving does not mean that this thing comes to an end. So I want everybody to realize that, and that we're going to be right alongside them as they continue to fight for, a growing, literally the most popular sport in the world growing here in Memphis. That's what we're here to do. So.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I'm going to continue to do what I can do, and I don't know what all that's going to entail. I'm sure it will certainly entail continued coverage of both the men's and women's teams over at the University of Memphis, primarily because that's who we've got left, but also because that's something we've been doing here for 2 years now. This year and last year. And I would be remiss if I did not remind everybody that the University of Memphis men's team has a AAC tournament game at South Campus tomorrow night against FIU. That is free. Everybody, if you want soccer, you should go.
Come on out.
And would also remind them that regardless of the outcome of that game, the AAC tournament final will be out at South Campus on Saturday at 11 o'clock. It's either 11 or noon. But obviously it would be much more enjoyable if the Tigers men's team is a part of that. But just if the last week and a half is any indication, please, Coach Mulrooney, if you're watching, please find a way to get the win tomorrow. We need it so desperately.
We need it. But hey,
but it's been I love doing the show. There's nights where I get home from a game and I'm like, God, I really don't want to do this. But the fact that there is a solid enough soccer base in Memphis and there was a big enough audience for this show, it's going to sound cheesy and it's going to sound kind of lame. But that is what, on those days where I don't want to do it, that keeps me doing it, because I know there's people out there who want to hear what I have to say. And I've always prided myself on kind of being of, for, and by the people. And so I do appreciate everything that y'all have done as far as reading my articles, watching my shows, sharing them, and all of that good stuff. I do really, really appreciate that. And, it just sucks. Like today just sucks. And it is really hard that, to have poured 6 years of your life into something and through maybe no fault of your own, have it just gone. And it is a major, major bummer. And I hate that they're leaving. I don't tonight have it in me to be fiery and angry, and I think we're still in the denial stage, unfortunately. So if you were wanting to tune in to watch me hoot and holler and throw things, I'm sorry I didn't live up to that. But there's no telling when that might happen. I'm sure it will at some point. But
that's coming. That's coming.
That's coming. Maybe that'll be I'll save that for me and John Varlas when we do our Tales from the Tunnel. But like, thanks to everybody that's been along this 6-year ride with me, and I'm not going anywhere, and I hope that y'all aren't either.
I want to do a real quick kind of another end of housekeeping. Uncle Buck from the 2 Buck Sports Show is live also on this network right now, doing a 2 Cents podcast live show about the college football playoff rankings. Man, go check it out. He's doing it live. Go in there, comment. What are your thoughts about college football rankings that just came out? And man, listen, Lawrence, I know this is not what we expected to do tonight, but
I was sitting on the couch watching a documentary about the sinking of the Costa Concordia with my fiance, and then my phone started going nuts. And the first one I says, "Are you okay?" I saw the 901 FC news, and I said, "Well, that can't be good.
That's not good."
And so I'm like, "Well, let me jump on Twitter," and sure enough, I've got like 30 notifications and 12 DMs, and I'm like, this isn't good.
Well, shit.
This isn't good. And sure enough, and then when I see, it's one thing if you see it from some random ass anonymous account, but when you see that it was from Tom Bogert, I'm like, that's a name that I recognize. That's a legitimate, well-respected national journalist. So what he's reporting, there's probably some teeth to it and a lot of truth behind it. So that's the unfortunate reality we're stuck with now.
Well, Lawrence, we will see you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Yes.
With
yes,
the podcast.
That is. We still have exciting ideas, and Kenny and I have talked about another one, and this news maybe changes the idea for that a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe it opens up a whole new possible opportunity. So we're still kicking around that one, but we are also do have a very interesting and I think very exciting podcast dropping tomorrow. Obviously, today's news kind of takes a little bit of the point away from it, but it's still a good point nonetheless. And I think you should all check it out and definitely tell me what you think about it.
All right, Lawrence, let's get out of here, man. Thank you to everybody who joined and commented, and thank you to Ian Johnson for joining us from the Bluff City Mafia. Thank you to Anthony Sane for joining us from the Anthony Sane Show. And man, we're going to keep it moving, man. But thanks for joining me, Lawrence. I appreciate you, man.
No problem.